Ahoy hoy and welcome to a very special edition of By the Horns, Gamer UK's semi-regular column by yours truly, Alex Bullock. Today we're going to be looking at The Mail Online, and a game that I haven't actually played yet and don't own, purely on the basis that although it's very easy to take the piss out of The Mail Online and the Daily Mail, there is a certain portion of the population that do read it and take it seriously. And it's interesting to kind of look at how it's written and really how insidious it can be. Torture and murder with the addictive glamour of Hollywood. Released to a fanfare of hysteric publicity. Now, if ever there's a word that described the Mail Online. The state-of-the-art game, just to reinforce how alien this should feel to the people who are reading it. State-of-the-art, it's something you do not understand. Cost 170 million again, kind of establishes this distance of this new scary technology. Okay, so yesterday, in the process of robbing a bank, I beat up an elderly security guard before shooting dead perhaps 15 policemen. The entire article is written in this style. It's kind of like a 12-year-old writing about what they did over the summer. Exulting in their murders with the flip dismissal, shouldn't have been a cop. After that, I stole a succession of fast cars, but, well, you didn't have to steal fast cars. I'm pretty sure it's not just fast cars in the game, but okay. Evading my pursuers by driving on the wrong side of the road. Is that a wrong side of the road because it's in the US? Or mowing down passers-by and killing more police by ramming straight into them. Scroll down for video, and there's this enormous great picture of one of the characters taking another's teeth out with pliers. Just in case you haven't kind of got the gist of where this article's going. Brutal. A torture victim has his teeth pulled out by pliers in a scene from... Yeah. Brutal and disturbing. I'm not very good at angry voice. The Daily Mail is... Had I kept going with this spree of orgiastic destruction and drug-fueled violence, I would have got the chance to use the much heavier weaponry, take stronger drugs, and not only murder people, but torture them. Yeah. I mean, it's just so inherently, not even biased, but it just doesn't give you any context, any particular background. It's just listing off these various crimes that you can commit and going, isn't it terrible? And well, maybe it is, and that's a debate that we can have, but this isn't a debate. In fact, if you hadn't already got the picture, their conveniently situated related stories include the fantastic A Game That Spawns Violence, man stabbed for new £45 Grand Theft Auto game after queuing up at midnight. Actually, they also stole his phone. So, released to a fanfare of hysteric publicity, it is so state-of-the-art. This is the byline. Okay. Even as I sat in a dentist's waiting room yesterday morning watching reports about the new release on television, the woman next to me told me her son had pre-ordered it months ago and had been salivating over the game's arrival for weeks. Yep, that's it. Paint the person, the son of the person you don't know, as a kind of brain-dead zombie, or some kind of social degenerate. No, that's perfectly reasonable. A deeply disturbing world. Ah, yes. Daily Mail. Okay, no, let's try and stay unbiased, and just be critical but fair. They say that all the really serious gamers are going to be taking the day off work, she said. Sure enough, when I paid £45 for a copy at my local Blockbuster, presumably in the year 1990, I was told that they had hundreds on pre-order because they knew it was going to be such a phenomenon. Well, yeah, it is. When the first Grand Theft Auto came out in 1997, I had a go with my stepson's copies and just, distancing himself. He wouldn't buy this kind of rubbish, of course, but didn't enjoy it that much. It involved an awful lot of driving around motorways, and I crashed so often I kept failing the missions the characters were supposed to carry out. So this is clearly someone who has a great deal of experience playing video games, someone who can't drive a top-down car in a PS1 game. Also, the gratuitous violence left a nasty taste in my mouth, particularly because it involves attacking innocent people for fun. That's my ruddy phone going off in the middle of a decent bit of commentary. I'm going to leave it in, fuck it. Particularly because, yeah. In that regard, this latest edition of Grand Theft Auto carries the casual immorality to new depths of depravity. Magnificent use of adjectives there, none of which are in any way judgmental whatsoever. Gratuitous violence, I mean, GTA 1, I know you can look back and people would say, oh, Doom, that looked kind of incredibly realistic and immersive at the time and blah blah blah, Carmageddon, but really it was so cartoonish, even more so than the 3D GTA games. The first two and expansions were so cartoony, and so you couldn't play that now and take it seriously, and I don't think you could at the time if you had a level head on. You variously inhabit the bodies of 3 different characters, all of them bad. Well, again, this is kind of part of the meta commentary which has been criticised elsewhere, but that's kind of the idea, is that you don't relate with any of the characters, and surely that kind of distances you from them. If you did relate to them, that would make it easier for you to accept the violence, would it not? There's Michael, a foul-mouthed middle-aged gangster, Trevor, a sociopath. Yeah, the idea is that rather than disapprove of all the unpleasant things they have to do in the course of their missions, you should revel in every moment. Is that the idea? Is that really the idea? Or is that just a snap judgment that you have taken it upon yourself to make? Because it seems fairly clear that, having just said that the characters are horrible people, you're now ascribing the way people do and should feel about those characters to them without any kind of consultation. But, let's move on. Maybe it redeems itself later. In Grand Theft Auto 5, the devil has all the best tunes. Right, okay, so we're bringing stark Christian imagery into this very even-handed opinion piece now. So what is it like to play? So all of this about how depraved and violent and sickening it is prior to this sentence, and now we're actually getting into, okay, what's the game actually like? Well, let's see what he says. Grand Theft Auto is successful not because it's cheap and nasty, but because it's very, very expensive and nasty. It has the production values of a Hollywood blockbuster. There are hundreds of games which have the production values of a Hollywood blockbuster, and they're not all in the vein of a GTA. There is very little that is in the vein of a GTA. These extend from the gritty, sometimes witty, and of course relentlessly foul-mouthed dialogue. It's kind of how actual people talk. Most of them not frequent visitors to the Mail, apart from for the celebrity gossip, of course. You can't stay away from that. To the lavishly detailed graphics and its carefully realised dystopian setting. Well, it's not meant to be dystopian. It's a black comic take on LA, but they did actually drive around LA and interview hundreds of people for this, and got actual gangsters and so on to voice characters. So not quite got the point there, Mr. Delingpole. Popular fans. Oh, that's a nice positive adjective to round out the article, because obviously not a lot of people actually finish any news article above like 200 words, even then. So you put the really appalling stuff that's going to set people off and send them straight to the comment section in the first half, and then in the second half you can be a little bit more balanced, because actually most people aren't going to read that far. Interesting kind of technique. Returning to the article, one big difference is that whereas in Hollywood films, even in our cynical age, Damn you, cynics in society. The bad guys tend to get their comeuppance. In Grand Theft Auto, the worse you behave, the greater your rewards. Well, yeah, again, this is kind of part of the wider commentary and context of all of the GTA games, which you're skipping over quite conveniently. This, as even a gushing 5-star review in The Guardian has to... Well, of course it's The Guardian, it would be gushing, wouldn't it? Is troubling and makes the experience of playing something so misanthropic and unremittingly violent, in quotes, a guilty pleasure. What? It normalises extreme violence and cruelty, so the longer you play, the more you not only become inured to it, but start to find yourself gripped and even sickly amused. Well, it's a black comedy. Aha, no doubt my trusty editing skills will leave you blind to the fact that I've just picked up a desk from the delivery man, not just picked it up in a kind of fit of Hulk-like rage. As a middle-aged parent, I like to think I'm mature enough to be able to appreciate the game's cartoonish, ugly, misogynistic, ultra-violent, pornographic worldview with a certain wry detachment. Well, you know, you are meant to view the entire game with a kind of wry detachment. That's a fairly apt turn of phrase. Not so sure about the ugly, misogynistic, ultraviolent, which are just words that you're kind of shoehorning into a sentence without any kind of context or wider picture of the game, how it plays, or any kind of message that Rockstar are trying to get across. But whether the game's teenage... Well, okay, let's go back to the middle-aged parent bit, because anyone who says, as a whether that's to do with age or race or gender, it's such a horrible way to, start or conclude an argument that being a certain thing gives you a kind of a special insight that other people can't appreciate but just kind of have to trust and take on face value is something that I find deeply disturbing in journalism and in writing. I think people should be welcome to formulate their own opinions, and you should be the one providing them with the material to formulate those opinions, not a kind of scapegoating hate piece. Okay, whether the game's teenage target market, well, it's 18 rated. I don't think you can say it's a teenage target market. The very fact that they've shipped enough copies to sell to a quarter of all console owners kind of tells you that it's not just 18 and 19 year olds and younger, as he's clearly implying, that are going to be buying this game. There is a huge spectrum of people who are avid GTA fans, because it's such a compelling series of games. People wouldn't buy it otherwise. It wouldn't break sales records every time it comes out otherwise. And there's clearly something more that even from reading the article, if you didn't know anything about GTA, there's clearly something more to it. If loads of people are buying this thing, and yet by his description, it's so rancid and horrible and dark and demeaning to women. What troubles me about GTA 5, which has an 18 rating that will be ignored by thousands of younger... Or like anything else, like any film, is not just the message it sends out to youngsters. Drugs are cool, crime pays, violence is fun. Well, actually, you commit any violence, you take drugs, you commit crimes within the game, and you will have the police after you. It's the electronic equivalent of those gladiatorial contests the Romans... So apparently GTA 5, that is the end game. And it's the same message that the Daily Mail has been peddling for about 50 years. Yeah, this is a game. It's not real. No one is dying. It's a social tool apart from anything else. You play this with people, you talk to people about it. It's going to be it's such a water cooler thing. In the same way that any great film is, and there is going to be debate, and this is not debate. This is not a contribution to that wider conversation about how appropriate elements of the game are, whether certain things that they're trying to say have failed or succeeded, and how good it is in the context of other games and the other GTA games. This is just hollow and empty and vicious. Anyway, thanks for listening. That is it. Unfortunately, I've had to cut it down to about half of the original recording length, so I will have missed a lot of stuff out. Feel free to comment. I always love reading those. And I will hopefully see you soon-ish for another exploratory kind of delve into the wider news media.